We're back, people. Another day of Miami Dolphins training camp to break down here today. Some interesting notes that were, came from the practices. Shout out Travis Wingfield again. But also just some other interesting nuggets that I think came from interviews, some injury reports. Again, can't go a day without some sort of mention of a new injury. So I guess we can kind of start that. Tyreek Hill did not practice today. It was an undisclosed injury. We don't have any more details than that, so I'm not going to speculate too much. Hopefully it's nothing serious. I imagine it's probably nothing too crazy since nothing had really been reported about it. Like they said, maybe he was maybe came up a little bit at the end of practice the other day, but yeah, not too much to talk about there. Another player to talk about that is out for weeks is Andrew Meyer, Dolphins center. He's probably done enough because McDaniel they asked him about McDaniel about Meyer in his interview press conference today, and he talked about very high value, like how he really stepped his game up, and one of the top performers of camps, had tremendous strides from year 1 to 2. So that's like a thing to talk about with Meyer. So probably pretty locked in to make the roster. It depends how long he is out exactly. Could be like one of those situations where you make the roster and you go to IR or something. But Meyer is probably someone you don't need to see too much of. I would have liked to see him a little bit in preseason, but hopefully he can figure that out, get healthy by the regular season, because we'll need him as a potential backup center if that's where it ends up going. Jason Marshall Jr. practiced today, so he returned after missing some time. Nice to see him back out there. That's kind of an important nugget that was kind of missed. I think that's pretty much the injury news based on the day. He also said he didn't know. He was unclear if any starters would play in the preseason opener. I imagine most won't. You'll probably see more of the starters in preseason game 2. That's kind of been the signs that McDaniel's done in the past, and it's what most teams end up doing. And he also said Darren Waller was about a week out from practicing, and Alec Ingold is still in concussion protocol. So those are kind of the injury news of the day. Malik Washington, shout out my guy, in the orange jersey. After that big play from yesterday, nice to hear, Malik getting some credit because, I'm a big fan. One of my favorite players on the team. Another interesting sort of thing that I would say happened is kind of a combination of two people talking about Grayson Murphy. So yesterday, Jalen Phillips was, getting interviewed by the beat reporters, and they asked him about all the backup edges, everyone behind the big 3, and he kind of went through all of them. He was talking highly of all of them, but the Grayson Murphy thing, he's like, Grayson Murphy is probably the best pure pass rusher on the team, which I thought was very interesting for him to say. And honestly, it's not that far off because Grayson Murphy is a very talented pure pass rusher, has such a good feel for the game. A guy I'm very high on, and I'm very excited to see in the preseason. Even McDaniel talked about Murphy today. He says he's a guy that has natural close quarter contact vision, bend. He can hold the point, that he can do a lot of things, and has just a really natural skill set that fits within the structure of the defense, which I agree with a lot of that stuff that Mike was saying. And, Phillips really hearing that praise from, players on the team. He talked about Patrick Paul working almost like how the quarterbacks work, how sometimes it's more about the process and how you're working things than the result, because you're going to have your wins and losses, especially in camp. So the process is very important. I do think that's a big keynote for someone like Paul, who is more working on the individual stuff. What's up, Trollway? What up? He also talked about Larry Borum, improving certain things. And let's see if he said anything else. And he was very complimentary of the back end of the defense, the secondary, which kind of paid dividends today, because he said that before the practice, the secondary seemed to have their strongest day. That's at least what I think Wingfield was saying. A lot of the other reporters were reporting a lot of high level, secondary stuff. That's, one of the keys going into the season is how well the secondary can end up playing. But yeah, I saw a lot of praise for a lot of players. Jack Jones, Storm Duck, Ethan Bonner had a strong day. He said it was a competitive 1v1 period. Storm Duck and Taj Washington had a really nice battle. I think they even posted a clip of it where it was good coverage, but Taj still came down with it. I can actually find it. Let me go here. Boom. Let me show you. Oh, nope. Not what I wanted. Why did it do that? Okay, let me go. What the heck just happened? Hopefully, okay. Now we're good. Okay. Here's Taj for Storm Duck. Like, good coverage. Explosive route. Look at Taj go up and make a play for it. Ball fighting. Taj still able to come down with it. Just, yeah, definite competitive 1v1 period there. I think there was another sort of play. Yeah. This one from Zach Wilson to D. Eskridge. Eskridge makes the one-handed adjustment. Very good play. You get to see the slow motion going on. But yeah, there we go. What's up, Cliff? What's up, Troll? We'll let people get in here. Hopefully, the whole notification problem now. But yeah, Jack Jones had a really strong 1v1 period, according to Travis Wingfield. He said he contested all 3 of his passes during 1v1 work, and he rerouted all 3 of Nick Westbrook-Akine, D. Eskridge, and Armstrong. Allowed 0 yards of separation. Jack Jones had a strong day, from every note that I saw. And that's, definitely huge. One of the most talented DBs on the team. Kind of, see him locked in. Some of the other news, Mike Hilton had a textbook rep versus Ezukanma. Washington got a step on BJ Adams. Ball was perfect. And it was Malik Washington able to track it over the shoulder. And then Ethan Bonner nearly got a pick on an outbreaker from Ezukanma. So some strong reps. Chop Robinson, Patrick Paul kind of battled back and forth. Chop was able to get a win on Patrick Paul. First, he was able to set him wide, then swipe back across his face. That's I think, key development for maybe Chop this season, is being able to win more with an inside counter move. He definitely was developing his bag, I think, as the season went on last year. Kind of, continuing to get better and better with more moves. But I do think having more of that inside counter, at least winning inside with speed, doing it a little more often. He definitely showed it last year, but doing it more often is big, which will be nice. Lots of people focus good in. Yeah, his twin brother is very good as well. Rodgers, Gabriel. They were both when they were in college, they were 2 of the highest. I believe they were both at the top of college football in pressures created. They're both I think Grayson might have been 1 and Gabriel was 4th or something. Yeah, they very high level. Yeah. Also, yeah, arm length. I think it's something the Dolphins maybe don't care too much about from the edge rusher position, because clearly they love Chop, and Chop, one of his biggest down, you would say, as a trait coming out of college, he has very short arms for most of his physical traits are really good, except arm length. It's actually very low on the threshold. So I think they value some other things over the arm length stuff. He talked a little about Jonah and his anchor. Just Benito tried to bull rush him and just didn't move Jonah at all. Looked super powerful. I think that's the thing with Jonah and Paul, is you can tell how powerful they are by people trying to move them in the pass game. If they have control, those guys are so difficult to move. They are so they have great anchors, great core strength. Now I want to see them use that power and translate it more to the run game, because they flash it in the run game, but they're not as consistent in creating movement themselves. They're very tough guys to move, but I want to see them create more movement in the run game on a consistent basis. Paul from last year, on just based on his NFL film year 1, I want to see that more consistently. And then Jonah was something I want to see more consistent in his college film. I know they both possess it because they have the athleticism, they have the play strength, they have the physical demeanor to do it. It just wasn't as consistent. I think if that's an area they both take a step in, that's huge for the offense. How many starters can play? Yeah, I doubt most starters will play in versus the Bears. I think you'll see some of them, some of the young starters play. Get them action. You might see Patrick Paul. Even then, you might not even see Paul. But yeah, you'll probably see all of them in the game 2. Are we not hearing a lot from Kenneth Grant? I've been reading a lot about Kenneth Grant, actually, Dennis, since the pads have come on. I've seen a decent amount of notes from him. So I know there wasn't much on him when there was no pads on, but I think that's pretty normal for a D tackle. But at least from what Travis has been saying, and Travis is the one who talks about most, he has the most in-depth notes, and he also has the most notes. I think, he's talked about Grant a decent amount. I feel pretty good. I'm not super concerned. Even if we didn't hear much about him, I wouldn't be that concerned because like last year we didn't hear much about Chop in training camp, and we saw how much Chop improved throughout the season. I think Grant is someone I'm pretty like, comfortable he'll be fine. Tua looks strong, yeah. If Tua plays full season, I think Dolphins are going to be a very competitive team. Yeah. Hey, we're almost there, Trollway. We're almost there. We're almost to at least a joint practice soon, joint practice on Friday. That should be fun. That will be at least something different. I'm excited for the joint practice. We'll probably see some different things, and it's always exciting going against someone else. And then I'm very excited for the preseason game. Then we got, where else are we? Yeah, and then Travis said Paul won in a rematch versus Chop as he tries to win around the edge. Chop and Paul having some fun reps against each other. He said Jalen Phillips had his favorite rush of the 1v1 period. He went down the middle of Larry Borum. He's able to shock and extend on him. He made a good point saying like when they play like Allen, Lamar, Daniels, the rushers, you have to have that lane integrity. That's why like I really like how Chop was able to win a lot by like not taking himself out of the plays in a lot of situations. Because I think that's something Chop struggled with early in the season, and it's something rushers with his type of skill set can struggle with. The guys that are known for their speed and trying to win around the edge too often. And like Chop was losing balance, and they would just go too far past the QB, and it just allows the QB to escape. I think Chop started figuring out how to win by like using speed to power, collapse the pocket with the tackle, and like just keeping that QB contained, and like he didn't allow him to escape too much, especially as the season progressed. I think that's sort of an underrated trait that edge rushers can have from time to time. Okay. Then we got team period starts. Yeah, he mentioned like seems like every team's period starts with a Jordan Brooks run stuff, and like I've noticed that too because I read the notes every day. Jordan Brooks run stuff is like one of the first things mentioned, and then Zach Sealer makes a play. Like those two are always mentioned like off rip. Two of the most reliable players I think going into this season for Miami. Like there's a handful of players I'm not worried about. Like I don't even have to like discuss them too much. Jordan Brooks and Zach Sealer are near the top of that list. Where I'm like, yeah, if they're out there, I'm feeling pretty good about them as players. Corners were challenging the receivers early. Tua had to make throwaways on his first two pass attempts. They were funneling a lot of the receivers to help. Seems like the secondary definitely had their strongest day. Then next thing he said was Tua hit Achane down the sideline for like a 25-yard throw. And it looked like it would have been a catch, but Ethan Bonner comes out of nowhere to jar it free. Probably was an incomplete pass more than a fumble, according to him, but it was a good route by Achane and just a really good recovery by Bonner. Bonner made multiple impacts. He said Madison looked like he was going to have another explosive run, but Patrick McMorris comes from depth and thuds him up after a short pickup. This is back-to-back days. I feel like we didn't hear anything about McMorris for all of camp, like all of mini camp, most of training camp. Now back-to-back days, we're getting Patrick McMorris mentions, and I think that's big for him going into preseason because we saw how much Patrick McMorris stood out in last preseason. But I think he's more of a game player. So the fact that he gets to, show up a little bit in these training camps, I'm excited. He's one that I'm very much looking forward to coming up. Then we got Jack Jones, again, getting the knockback on the receiver, forcing the defender to run up, helps Channing Tindall make a play. Defensive sideline dapping up Jack after the play. Jack Jones was all over the field today, making impact plays versus the run and one-on-ones in team drill, making impact plays, helping out teammates in certain situations with reroutes. Then some good plays from Chubb and Phillips. Don't need to, talk about them too much. Nice ball to Weiss on the roll at about 12 yards coming down the right field. Ball is around target, throwing on the move. It seems like Ewers and Weiss have built a really nice chemistry, and they've kind of continued that at least a little bit today. Weiss is, I think when Ewers is in at QB, Weiss will probably be the receiver to watch in the preseason games. See if they can continue that chemistry. And if they can, that boosts Weiss's shots of making the team a lot. Ollie Gordon had a big run, 25-30 on a beautiful misdirection. He shows that ability to press and bounce skill he's been displaying all camp, outruns the defense to the perimeter. Nice to hear these outrunning defenses to the perimeter, but I love the note of pressing the line of scrimmage and then bouncing or pressing the line of scrimmage and taking a different angle. It's such a underrated trait that running backs have, and it's one of the first things that like I notice when watching running backs, because like usually when a running back can do it, they usually end up being pretty good. It's the guys who can press the line of scrimmage with patience, because that's usually how you manipulate second level defenders. And from like a broadcast view, more of like a casual fan's view, it is something that goes just unnoticed. It just looks like a little like, oh, he's taking an extra step there. You're not thinking too much about it. But that sometimes can make the difference between a good running back and a great running back. So seems like Gordon's at least feeling that pretty well, and hopefully that can translate into live action. Cam Good got a sack working against Ryan Hayes. Ewers still threw it and got a completion to Baldwin. So if it wasn't a sack, it would have been a nice completion to about 15 for Baldwin. But Cam Good kind of starting to come alive. I don't think Cam Good makes the team, but like I think he could still be like a practice squad guy. I just think that edge room is tough right now. There's a lot of bodies. Waddle gets open to the corner with a crisp route, but looks like Tua was a double clutched it and was like just a little bit late. Waddle was on the white line, but then he returns over the middle. Tua throws over the middle to Waddle on the next play, and he got a step on duck, and it looks like he would have gone for about 50 according to Travis. He said, I lost track of this like 8 days in, but I'm 99% sure Chops had a sack every day in team. He just got one on Tua working on Larry Borum. Yeah, Chop, as I said, I believe I said this yesterday, Chop might end up being considered, like, by the end of this season, like, the team's best player. Like, that would not surprise me at all. That's, like, the trajectory I think Chop is potentially on. Tua mentioned, yeah. Tua said he's seen the front five's done a great job. This is actually a great note from Tua, because he said the front five has done a great job, but he says it's only going to get better when they start game planning. That's such a thing that we have to bring up, is in these practices, they're not necessarily doing a lot of their normal stuff. Like, they are doing a lot of more drop back stuff, things that they won't necessarily do a ton in games. When they are game planning for teams and they're running the ball more effectively and they're slowing down the edge rushers throughout a game, they're using that play action, they're jump setting more often, that will make life easier on the O-line. So even if like the O-line is having certain struggles in practice at time, their life in a game will be made easier, at least the starting five. Like, I feel pretty good about the starting five. I think, once you get past the starting five, that's where we're going to come into some issues. But yeah, it only actually would get better within an actual live action game. That's a very interesting point there from Tua. I hadn't actually thought about that, but yeah, that's a good point. Let me see what you guys are saying. After all this talk about Storm Duck, we're going to see how he does this weekend. Yes, I'm excited to see Duck. So we'll give you good playing time in the preseason, see how he looks. Yeah, Ewers will probably play the most snaps. I'm imagining week 1 we'll see Zach Wilson start, and then he'll probably play around a half, and then I think Ewers will play another half. Preseason week 2, we'll probably see all 3 QBs play, and then preseason week 3, you'll probably see like mostly Ewers. Like, Zach could play like a drive or two, but it'll be mostly Ewers. Fun up. Yeah, what's up? AJ, yeah, Austin Jackson coming back would be huge. It's definitely huge. What did I miss? Secondary had a very strong day today. Very like aggressive secondary. The usual performers also playing well. On both sides of the ball. But yeah, probably secondary's best day. What else did I mention? Jack Jones, Ethan Bonner had really strong days. Tyreek Hill did not practice today. We don't know what injury he's dealing with, but he didn't practice. Andrew Meyer is out weeks. As long as he's ready for the regular season, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I would have liked to see him in some preseason action, but he is like your backup center. And I think, McDaniel talked about him like improving a lot, so he's probably pretty locked in there. Malik Washington in the orange jersey. Yeah, we talked about the Taj Washington acrobatic catch and the Eskridge acrobatic catch. Miami Dolphins posted that. We showed that earlier. Chop getting sacks again and again. Here we go. Okay, some new notes. Keon Smith puts the clamps on Derek McLennan with rush with a great finish. Helps Wilson find the swing to the back for a nice run after the catch. Like hearing that, and that means if Keon Smith's going against an edge here, that means he was likely lined up at tackle, which is what I want to hear. Keon Smith needs to be a tackle. It's one of the it's one of the agendas that I need to push because it doesn't make any sense for him to continue playing guard. Ethan Robinson was one step away from a pick 6 on a Quinn Ewers throw. He poked away with one hand, read it all the way. I feel like that's the first Ethan Robinson mention. He's the Minnesota UDFA. I mean, I'm going to be keeping an eye on all the UDFAs in preseason. Like, they all have a chance to stand out and make some plays. But I do think that's one of the first Ethan Robinson mentions. So at least nice to see him get involved. We'll see if he can, continue, maybe feel more comfortable. But yeah, so much upside. Has Waller been at practice? Waller's been there, but he hasn't practiced. And McDaniel said today he should be back in about a week. He said he expects him to be practicing in about a week. Do you think there will be any corners that sit during preseason, or all the starters going to be out there? I wouldn't be surprised to see all the corners play. That's one of the positions you could have them play. You maybe don't need to play like a Mike Hilton because he's like a veteran. Nickel has played so many regular season snaps. You probably don't need to see him, but everyone else should be out there for sure. Yeah, I mean, he said he expects Wallers to be back out there in a week, so I think they're just easing him back into things, man. Minka times up his run well and sacks Tua on the first play of the 2-minute drill. This is like the first 2-minute drill where I think the starting O got stopped, and it basically, Minka coming in on a blitz. Nice to hear this. This is like a few days now we've heard about Minka making some sacks, so they're clearly trying to get some, usage, the best usage out of him, getting him involved. Then they get back to the line quickly. Tua tries a fastball to Eskridge, but Storm Duck has a diving PBU. Continuing, Storm Duck plays. And then, that sort of kind of killed the drive. Shocker, Willie Blake comes clean on a blitz and has a sack on Zach Wilson. That's 2 for him. Willie Gay's had I think he's had a sack. He might have had a sack every practice. There might have been one day he didn't have a sack. And he's not even an edge defender, but they are blitzing him constantly, and that's how you should use him. He's a guy that you don't want him to think too much. You want him to run and hit things. He's a run and hit linebacker, super athletic, high energy player, and I'm excited to see how Weaver utilizes him because I do think he fits pretty well. And then Jordan Colbert. He says Jordan Colbert is having a strong, good camp. He had a PBU in coverage earlier, and now he had jarred the ball free from Armstrong on a bang throw from Zach Wilson. So 2 PBUs from Colbert. He's not someone that I expect to make the team. He made the practice squad last year. I think that will be sort of similar for him this year. I think from his preseason film, it was last year, it was fine, but he wasn't a standout in my opinion. So I think he would really have to stand out in preseason for him to make it. But it's nice to see him having a strong camp. I hope he can continue to develop. I just think in that safety room, he's kind of the odd man out and probably more likely a practice squad guy. Then he said Willie Gay got stonewalled on a blitz, but then he got his hands up and had a PBU at the line of scrimmage. They didn't make the field goal though. That was a 2-minute drill, but they did make the field goal from Sanders, a 53-yarders. Patrick Paul gets out on Ethan Bonner on a quick throw to Waddle, but Ethan Bonner ducks around the block and cuts Waddle down. I do think that's somewhere I would feel comfortable with Bonner on the field. I do think he's pretty willing to come downhill, make tackles, get involved versus screens, so that's not super surprising. Jordan Brooks had a decleating hit on Julian Hill. Got up, super fired up. Yeah. I mean, nothing's shocking there. Now they high-low Bonner, but he reads it out perfectly and cuts down Achane on the short throw. Waddle was the high as he comes from depth to take him out of bounds. Big day for Bonner. Really love how Travis describes this stuff because I can picture it perfectly. If you don't know what a high-low is, but typically in a high-low and he's talking about a corner, that means they were playing cover 2 and Bonner was the flat defender on the outside. And they're trying to high-low him with a smash type concept. So I'm imagining Waddle is in the corner, a deep corner route. But Bonner gained enough depth to take away that throwing lane, and then they have an underneath route underneath in the flat, and Bonner closed on that quickly to make a play. Very good athlete. I hope Bonner makes the team. And if he does make the team, I think he will probably see playing time at some point during the season just because of how that corner room is. But he is one of the young corners that I am most high on. Him and Storm Duck, I think, have the most potential out of that group. At least out of the UDFA, the guys that are UDFAs. Also, like Jason Marshall Jr. has super high potential as well, but he was drafted. Let me see. what you guys are saying. You think Ben Johnson will get Caleb reps? I wouldn't be surprised to see Caleb get reps, and I know he's been struggling. I don't think Caleb Williams is a good fit for that offense at all. Like, I think he's one of the worst fits for a Ben Johnson type offense. Because you look at like Jared Goff. Jared Goff has a similar play style to Tua in like terms of like he's very good off play action, hit that back foot, release the ball with timing over the middle of the field. That's probably Caleb Williams' biggest weakness is releasing the ball with timing over the middle of the field. And that's kind of where that Lions offense is supposed to thrive. If I were a coach, I want the reps at game speed. I mean, yeah, they're all going to get reps at game speed. I would like to see more of that, but also I understand it because we've had so many injuries. Hopefully Rick is fine just a day off. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned as of yet. It could be more serious than I'm thinking, but just based on context clues, I don't think it's super serious. I did see this. Actually, wait, I wonder, because this was a video posted this morning. So this was one of the big long bombs yesterday because they had a couple. This was the Tua deep throw to Tyreek. Does it look to you right here, right there? Like once he's running, he kind of pulls up a little bit. Like right there, he starts to slow down, pull up a little bit. Maybe it looks like he's straining. I wonder if that's the play where he kind of got a little, like banged up tight. This was also another play that was posted yesterday. Nick Westbrook-Akine from Tua down in the red zone. Good ball. Nick Westbrook getting 2 feet in bounds. He's someone I'm excited about. I think, he's not going to be like a super productive, like put up crazy stats, but he's a guy that I think, he can score touchdowns for you. Also, the receiver coach got super hyped with him. I think he's going to do dirty work. He's going to be involved, and it's nice to see, Tua's got to build chemistry with the receivers for sure because he's such an anticipatory thrower. So it's, it feels like they're getting more and more involved each day. And that was from yesterday. Do you think we'll see Borum get some guard snaps in preseason? Ooh, that's a good point. I don't know. I don't know if we'll see him get guard snaps. I hope so. But I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't. Any words on James Daniels is out? Yeah, James Daniels is out there. He's been out there. He's been practicing. He's been practicing pretty much since the beginning of training camp. So, I haven't heard really like any negative things from Daniels. They say he looks pretty like up to speed. Like he's pretty athletic. Like it doesn't look like the Achilles is affecting him too much. Yeah. So I haven't heard really him get. I haven't even in like the one-on-one drills. It hasn't sounded like he's gotten beaten too bad or anything like that. It seems like he's been pretty competitive. And like when I have heard him mentioned, it's been like mostly him having wins. But he hasn't been mentioned a lot, which is fine. I think for an O-line, not getting mentioned is actually usually a good sign. Because usually when you're getting mentioned, that means you're getting beat. Will Tyndall and Cam Smith make the 53? I lean towards no, but they could. I don't think Tyndall does. I think Cam Smith still could, but if it was me, I think I would move on from both of them. And honestly, you might even be able to keep them on the practice squad. Because it's been a while now, like teams could easily not claim them. Yeah. A pre-trade injury. Yeah. I mean, I don't see him getting traded at this point. I think it would be more of like once the season's over, he'll get traded. Because if they were going to trade him, I think he would have got traded already. Would much rather see Borum at guard and Smith at tackle. Yeah, for sure. I just wouldn't be surprised, Nicholas, if we see him both at tackle. Because like I wouldn't be surprised if you see Keon at left tackle and Borum at right tackle in like the starters of preseason game. Because because Austin's obviously out, so you'll probably see Borum out there early. They could even sit Borum, to be honest, because he's technically with the starting group, at least in week 1. He'll definitely play during the preseason at some point. I just don't know how much he's going to play. Keon, I'm sure we'll see out there. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, week 1, if the starting tackles is Keon and Borum. They might get Paul out there for, like, a drive or two. But yeah, where are we at now? Okay. Chop resets the line of scrimmage. Held his own at the point of attack on a run. Like hearing that, I've been saying I was, Chop was not as big of a liability as versus the run as maybe people thought. He was obviously a much better pass rusher, but like versus the run, I thought he played like average level football, which is fine. If he plays as an average run defender, perfect. If he just does his job, he doesn't need to make splash plays versus the run, because I think he has a high like level ability as pass rusher. That's what I need out of Chop. Kendall Sheffield made a play. He got a pick. He was all over Taj Washington. Wilson throws a little fade up the sideline as he's hot with the rush. Sheffield got his roundabout. And then he said, really nice play. Corners having their best day today, in my opinion. We talked a little bit about Sheffield yesterday, and we know he's been running with the ones. It looks like here he's going against the twos because of like Taj and Zach Wilson. But seems like he's going to be someone that they're going to definitely give eyes on and give him a chance to make this team and potentially see playing time. He's someone that I like out of the veterans. He's the one that like has a lot to prove in my eyes because he has not played a lot of snaps over the last 2 seasons. And the limited snaps he did play, it wasn't super impressive. So nice to see him making some plays. You know, we need as many DBs to step up as possible. But it seemed like a lot of the DBs did. Sheffield had the pick. Bonner's made multiple plays from what we saw. Jack Jones was all over the field. Jack Jones and Iffy Milifon were there to cut down Whisper Kakini and a quick pop from Tua. Jones punched the ball right as NWI caught it, but he held on. So there's another play. They're getting active. Here's a Kenneth Grant mention. Kenneth Grant resets the line inside, and Jalen Phillips collapses the backsides to make a stuff on an H-hand run. Continue to hype up Alexander Madison, saying like he's having a very strong camp that you can't ignore. He said he's seeing it and hitting it at full speed. He's another one out of the veterans that I need to see in live action because just running back in general, I think, is more important in live action. But you got to give respect to Madison. He's at least like, making a lot of plays here and hitting it fast. And I do think this is a good scheme fit for him. I do think outside zone is his best concept to run in because when he was with the Vikings, when he had his best seasons, they ran a lot of outside zone because that's where like Dalvin Cook was comfortable and he was the backup to Dalvin Cook. It's just the last 4 seasons he's played, he's averaged like 3.5 yards per carry. So like, I got to see it happen in the game, because that's where you like really things play out. But I do think like worst case scenario, Madison at least brings you value as a short yardage back, getting some short yardage plays. But it seems like he can bring even more value. He's not going to be like a full-time player for you or anything, but it seems like he could at least be a part of the rotation and get some carries. When is the final cut day for 53-man roster? I don't know when the exact day is, but I imagine it's shortly after the 3rd preseason game. Also, I'm very high on Isaiah Johnson, Storm Duck Bonner. Yeah, I like Isaiah Johnson as well. I just think out of the UDFAs, I prefer Duck and Bonner, but Isaiah Johnson would be next. You wouldn't start Paul versus the Colts? Versus the Colts? No, I mean, yeah, week 1. Yeah, I was saying preseason week 1, Nicholas. That's what I meant by starters week 1 preseason. No, Paul is going to start regular season week 1. Yeah, for sure. My bad. But yeah, I mean, the starting 5's locked. Like, no one's going to take any jobs from the starting 5. Like, some of them could get injured, and obviously, but like the starting 5, in my opinion, is like there's no battles. Paul's your left tackle, Jones is your left guard, Brewer is your center, James Daniels your right guard, and Austin Jackson's your right tackle. Now we could see some people go out with injuries, and I've said it before. I think the Dolphins can afford 1 injury on the O-line and still be a good offense. Like still be good against like good defenses, good teams. Like I think they would still have that level of talent to still do what they want to do. But I think once you start going down below that, like 3 of 5 offensive linemen only starters out there, that's when I think you see this offense start to lose some steam. They could still be effective versus like lesser teams. 2 of 5, like you're screwed. We've seen it in the 2023 season that really tells it all. Will Bonner make team? Eileen, yes. Not a guarantee though. I think preseason can change a lot in terms of the corner room. But I think Bonner is someone who's looked good in the preseason games he's played in, so I feel like he can still be pretty comfortable there. I like Bonner a lot. I think he should make the team. Like, I think if they like kept Kendall Sheffield and like played him as a starter, like if it was between like Kendall Sheffield and say Bonner to make the team, like your last guy, or even Cam Smith, like I'm keeping Bonner over Cam Smith. I would keep Bonner over Sheffield, even if they think Sheffield could be a potential starter for you early on. I don't think he'd be a very good starter, and I don't think he's like he definitely isn't a long-term option. He's like a little bit older, hasn't made an impact throughout his career really. It has a little more experience, but it's not a lot of experience. I think he's fine as a depth guy for you. Like I would like if the corner room ended up being like Duck, Hilton, Jack Jones, That's 3. You're probably keeping around 6-ish, and then it ends up being like I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being like Sheffield Bonner, and then Jason Marshall Jr. because they drafted him. I wouldn't be surprised if that's like the 6 they keep. Like you cut Cam Smith, Isaiah Johnson, you get on the practice squad, and then I'm probably missing someone, but yeah, there's other people that are fighting too. Like there's still some of the UDFAs you can't count out yet. Those guys could always break out in preseason. That could change things, but yeah. Let's see, where was I at? Wilson had his best throw of the day on a run, throwing across his body, 25 yards down the field as a Conma. Let's see. Achane looks like he has the wide lane, but Minka comes flying downhill to turn him back inside, just in time for Jalen Phillips to slip the block of Julian Hill and make the stop at the line. JP's run D is flashing today, according to him. Then he said Tua heating up with a couple of quick pops to Waddle. The way Tua gets the ball out quickly or gets the ball out off play fakes and eyes is different in different locations. Is a nuance that I frankly really enjoy watching. I agree with this statement. Like, it's one of the reasons Tua is one of my favorite QBs to watch, and like that style of QB is one of my favorite QBs to watch, is because it's a very rare way to play. Like I can understand from like when you're watching him and brought you want to see the more exciting plays where QBs are running around a lot. I enjoy QBs that can play very quickly like this and play with that sort of anticipation. I think it's super impressive to me. Now, if you had the combination of the two, give me that player, the player that can play on script super fast and also play off script. But yeah. And he says he doesn't think he's seen Waddle drop a ball all summer. Knock on wood. Because that's a big thing Waddle, kind of needed to improve on. Probably his biggest weak point as a player. He said a surgical drive-by Tua took them 50 yards down for the score, one completion after another. Mo Camara with another rep. It seems like Mo Camara is starting to get mentioned every day. Not making like multiple plays every day, but like having a flash play every day. Because, he's in that battle with like a Grayson Murphy, Quentin Bell, Cam Good, Derek McClendon. They're, kind of fighting for some spots there. But he had a rep splitting the tackle and guard, moving Ewers off his spot, then pursuing him all the way to the sideline. Preseason's huge for Kamara. I think it's huge. Jack Jones has a diving PBU on Ewers, throw to Rucci. Almost had the pick on the play. And then he said another Jack Jones win. Ewers tries Weiss in the back of the end zone, but the route was too active as Jones was in phase and pushed it to the end line. So, yeah. Shout out Travis Wingfield for all those notes. Jack Jones very active. I think that was the last specific note there. 11 Eastern notification bell not working. Hey. I don't get it, man. It's got to be something with YouTube. I tried looking it up if there was like a problem, and it just seemed like it's either a YouTube problem or like, it's either like some sort of setting issue that's had with like the person with the notifications, but I imagine it's probably just a YouTube problem. Yeah. Mo Camara isn't going to make the 53, but practice squad is where he lands if he clears waivers. Oh, man, if he gets cut, he'll definitely be one of the main practice squad targets. But I still think he has a chance to make the 53. As of right now, I would agree that it's probably going to be not him. But I think it's close enough to where like preseason can change things pretty quickly. What is your opinion on Cam Smith's issues? I think Cam's pretty talented, but I think he's had, there's two main problems. One, injuries. He just hasn't played. Like he has very rarely played throughout his, career. Going into his 4th year? He's barely played at all. So that's like a really like tough, it was unfortunate for him, but also like there's also the potential of like, I don't know if these things are for sure, but the things with like the maturity issues, maybe has he been locked in? Because sometimes that's the difference with these players. You have all the talent to be, if he was just, a little more committed, then maybe that could have been the difference. He makes some technical mistakes out there, some mental mistakes. He has good physical and athletic talent, but it just hasn't translated. And I think it's time to move on. Yeah, he had 15 drops last year. Yeah. To me, Ethan Bonner is definitely an NFL level player. Like if he gets cut, he is someone that should be on another roster. Similar to like Chris Brooks. Like when the Dolphins had to get rid of Chris Brooks because of the injury thing last year, Chris Brooks ended up on a roster and then he proved to be like a nice rotational player. I think that's what Bonner would be somewhere in the league. Is Julian Hill looking better in camp? From what I've heard, no. Yeah, Cam Smith, third year, yeah. Either way. There just hasn't been enough. Usually I do like to give players 3 years. I think 3 years is usually where you like to see the development. If you don't start to see that like true development by year 3, like even into like this point, might be time to move on. And like you at least need to see something in year 1 and year 2 to make you feel like, oh, he could reach it by year 3, which we just haven't really seen. How's Waddle looking? More big plays. No Tyreek out there. It seemed like, he was getting the work in with Tua. Him and Tua connected on some plays towards the end there, especially like in the final drive, to have like a 50-yard scoring drive. Him and Waddle, I think, connected for a while there. I'm trying to think if anything else was said. It's pretty exciting. We have a lot of chirping on it. I think these guys are hungry to see the ball. Tua talking about being excited to go against the Bears in joint practices. Me too. Now, I saw there's a joint practice for sure on Friday, but based on what I saw, there's nothing listed on Thursday. So I don't know if there's any practice going on tomorrow or what. We'll see. I couldn't find any information. Yeah, some interesting stuff. Definitely, yeah, if you guys have any questions, I can answer that. I think that was all the information I wanted to go over. Yeah. I showed those clips. Yeah, we're good there. I don't think anything else has been interview-wise has come out since we've started. Why is it doing that? Okay. Type in some stuff. Yeah, also interesting. Yeah, do you guys see like NFL like owns 10% of ESPN? That is not a good thing. The NFL should not own the site that will be like reporting on it. Like that's, it would take a lot of things that ESPN says the NFL now with a grain of salt. It's not good journalism. Fangio always sells falls and Smith, yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just his biggest issue is he just hasn't even played. Like, and also there's just I agree. Like he's had the injury thing, and there just hasn't been enough outside of the injuries when he has played to warrant him sticking around. I was a Peyton Manning fan, so I believe in that style of play. Oh yeah, I really like watching QBs that are like just like play with timing like that. Do you know of any Bears players that we would want to look out for battles? It's a good shout. I can look at the Bears roster, our depth chart, and we can see some potential fun battles there. No, not what I wanted. Okay. Let's go here. Let's look at their room. Okay, so receivers, they have some good receivers. I think seeing our receivers go against like Roma Dunze, DJ Moore should be exciting because our DBs have had to go against some pretty good receivers. I wonder if they'll have more success against, even though they're good, but like they're obviously, I think, a little harder to guard Waddle and Tyreek in one-on-ones. So I'm excited to see like Storm Duck versus like a Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. A lot of our top guys. I'm excited. Jalen Johnson is one of the best corners in the league. So I want to see Jalen Johnson versus like Tyreek and Waddle. That should be some fun one-on-ones. They have some talented players on the D line, like Grady Jarrett, Montez Sweat versus like a Patrick Paul. They brought in Deo Adinigbo. He should be someone that Patrick Paul should go against, and I think Paul should win that battle, honestly. Trying to look at like O-line versus D-line, receiver versus corner, because that's usually where you can actually see battles happen. The Bears have brought in a lot of new interior O-linemen. Their entire interior is different. Like they have Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman. I want to see the Dolphins interior D-line, especially the young guys, go against that group. We'll see if they can flash. They also have Darnell Wright at right tackle, who's a pretty good right tackle. I think the rest of the tackles will get exposed by the Miami edges, but Darnell Wright should be the one to really go against him. What's your outlook on Caleb Williams? I don't think I'm not super high on where Caleb is at. I think Ben Johnson is a very good offensive mind. And I think he's a very poor fit for Ben Johnson's scheme. So unless Ben Johnson's scheme is way different than it was in Detroit, I'm kind of worried about Caleb. And from everything I've seen, it's been bad. Now we'll see what happens in live action. But I don't see Caleb, he's not going to, he's not going to be bust in terms of the worst first overall pick ever. But I don't see it working out super well for him. Yeah, Bears line is very good. That's something they work to improve this season. That will give the Bears the best chance of the offense being good is if they can run block and they kind of don't have to rely on Caleb to be the main sort of thing of the offense. Just popped in. How was Tua today? Seemed like Tua had a pretty solid day. Seemed like the DBs did a really good job challenging receivers so people weren't open. But Tua did finish strong with a nice 50-yard closing drive to close out practice. I don't remember everything you thought of Caleb last year, but I was a fan. I didn't talk about the QBs much, to be honest, from that draft class because the Dolphins weren't really looking for one. So I did like that class overall, but yeah, I like Daniels. I mean, especially like Daniels more now after year one. Daniels is just a bet. He has the insane athleticism and can make plays off script, but the fact that he's processing already at that high of a level is such a good sign for them. I like Drake May more than Caleb Williams. Even though I don't want Drake May to be very good because he's on the Patriots, but I think Drake May is better than Caleb and is in a better spot than Caleb is right now as well. So we'll see how that all plays out. Also, I would say Bo Nix had a pretty good year one. I would say Bo Nix outplayed my expectations, but I also think he is being a little bit overrated because of that offense. I think the scheme was very QB friendly for him, because I'm pretty sure he threw behind the line of scrimmage more than any quarterback in the NFL. Even more than the Dolphins did, and they were thrown behind the line of scrimmage a lot because they could not run the ball. Do we expect to see Paulus game? I would say I think it could go either way, really, to be honest. I think we see a drive or two out of Paul. That's my guess. I think Bo Nix was helped out. Yes, he was helped out by Sean Payton a lot. I think he played, I got to give him his credit. He played pretty solid with what he was asked to do, but he was asked to do not a lot. But he did make plays when he was asked to do some stuff. So we'll see how that plays out. He's one that I'm still it could go either way, in my opinion. I was looking up Zach Sealer compared to Chris Jones, Quinton Williams, etc. Sealer's a top tier. Yeah. Zach's putting up crazy stats, but PFF 20. Yeah. I don't put much stock in PFF, to be honest. I think it's a very unreliable grading system they have. So it's all just it's very hard to I know they get some stuff right, but with just how the grading system works and all the inaccuracies I see, it's hard to put too much stock into it overall. Especially I understand a lot of fans looking at it because a lot of fans aren't watching the film, so you got to go somewhere. But as someone who's watching film is what I do all the time. It's I'm not putting much stock in PFF. Yeah. I think the DBs should have an easier job going against most other teams because you're going against Tyreek and Waddle, and going against Tyreek and Waddle specifically one-on-one drill is there's not much of a tougher ass that you're gonna have. Oh man. Hate to admit it, but Patriots had a good draft too. Yes, I think they did. I can't remember all their draft picks, but I do remember thinking they had a good draft. See, did I miss anything? How do you guys Duck and Kohu go undrafted? Well, Kohu goes undrafted because he played at Texas A&M Commerce. So you just kind of fly under the radar. He, not the biggest guy. He probably, was a late bloomer and out of high school, did not, make it. And then honestly was probably lucky to even get a shot in the NFL because of where he played. But clearly the talent shone through and he made it. Storm Duck, I think probably should have been drafted, but I understand maybe why he wasn't based on film. But I do think based on film, he was someone who should have went drafted. And sometimes guys who should have been drafted just fall. And I believe Storm Duck got a pretty nice, like, guaranteed like money for UDFA. So he probably wasn't even mad about being UDFA because I think he probably got paid more than some late round guys. Glad Greer kept Zach Wilson versus Wilkins. Yeah. Well, or Zach Sealer versus Wilkins. Yeah, well, yeah, Sealer was no brainer because he was also so much cheaper than Wilkins. And it was also like, you know, a little bit of it is hindsight because Wilkins now got injured and he never had an injury before he left Miami. So it is like, you know, it's one of those things. But yes, I do agree. I was team keep Sealer over Wilkins, especially based on price point. Like I know people wanted like Wilkins and Robert Hunt to stay. I'm just like, in that final year, they could not afford to pay Wilkins and Robert Hunt that level of money. You think we should go after Joshua Williams from Chiefs? I don't know. I've seen a couple people mention that. I know that was like, I don't think it was a very serious report, but I'd see people like suggest that. I just don't know if it changes the room that much. Like I'm not against it. If it's like a late round pick, I don't mind throwing those kind of darts out there. Like I'm sure he could, make some sort of impact, would probably play more than most. But I don't think it's like some necessity because I don't think it changes the corner room that much overall. And I am trying to keep as many draft picks as possible because I think long-term outlook, the best thing for this team is building through the draft because before this last draft, they had no picks at all in 2022 and 2023, and that's kind of hurt the team in certain ways not having picks in those years. They had no first-round picks. They only had one second-round pick in those 2 seasons, and they didn't even nail the second-round pick. The only pick they really nailed was Achane because they had no picks. They only had 4 picks in each draft, and, half those picks were, 6th and 7th rounders. Okay. Yeah, Henderson's very good. Trevion Henderson was my... I had Henderson as RB2 after Genty. I've been a big Henderson fan for years. And he's also a very good pass pro guy. Getting the hiccups. We're going to end up with Reek Woolen. Seahawks can't pay him and Spoon next year. Yeah. I'd rather have Spoon, to be honest. I do like Tariq Woolen, though. But I'm a big Devin Witherspoon fan. But the Dolphins need a lot of corner help. But I don't think they're going to get true corner help till next year. Still think they should have paid AVG. I love Chaba Dungan, but AVG, yeah. I agree that AVG was the only one that they, I think that like based on price and like where they left, I think Andrew Van Ginkel was like the only free agent that year that I was like, yeah, they should have kept him on that deal. But I also I will say from, I do know, I have been told from some people that they did not bring Van Ginkel back because Anthony Weaver did not see him a fit in the scheme. So I don't think it was like, oh, like Greer didn't think he was talented enough. It was just like Weaver didn't see him as a scheme fit. And I do see that. Like, I don't think Van Ginkel would have been as effective last year in Weaver's scheme as he'd been prior in like Fangio and Flores' scheme. Because I don't think he is as clean as a fit. But I'm also don't think it's that big of a deal now based on this year because I think you're totally fine in the edge department because you have 3 studs. But I do agree in the moment, like last year having him would have been nice. Not every draft pick is home run. I mean, yeah, you're not going to hit every draft pick. No one does. Reason has said that too. Yeah. I think Reason was the one that told me that. I can't remember that, to be honest. But I think it was Reason that told me that. I might have heard it from multiple different people, actually. Yeah. Oh, here's a clip. This is from Marco on Twitter. I think it was Marco. Actually, let me check. Let me give him the proper credit. Or no, not Marco. Yeah, Mark Jean Baptiste, Mark D305. This is a minute-long video. He said it's to a red zone work. Let's see what we got here. I think this is from today. Got Achane next to him. Looks like Julian Hill, tight end. Couple tight ends on the field. Waddle up top. Completion of the tight end. I think that's probably Tanner Connor. Looks like they're just going quick. Let's kind of scroll through here. Oh yeah, they bring in Malik. He's got the orange jersey. Look at Patrick Paul, man, 52. he just looks so much bigger than everyone else. You got Daniels out there, Larry Borum at right tackle. Actually, let me scroll back there. Let's see who everyone is. I'm imagining 70. Is that 72? I think that's Jonah at left guard. This is the starter, so I imagine that's Jonah at left guard and then Brewer at center. See what happens here. I actually haven't watched this, so we're watching this live. Motion HN out. Get the indicator with the linebacker. It might look like man. Make the call. Boom. Quick screen. Get out to the edge. Potential touchdown there. Hard to tell with, no live action. Dolphins do love their screens down in the red zone. Eh? To be fair, though, that was if screens were effective last year, they were pretty much only effective in the red zone because HN had 6 receiving touchdowns off screens. So I mean, if you're gonna throw screens, I don't mind it in that spot, but that's probably the only spot I'm good with it. Yeah, we got interesting. Okay. You think Grant will perform better than Campbell last year or this year? Well, Campbell played at a very high level, so I don't know if he'll outperform him in terms, especially not a consistency level. But they also kind of play slightly different positions. I think Grant's going to do a good job throughout the year. And I think he's going to play more snaps than Calais did, because Calais started playing pretty limited snaps later on in the year. It's tough for a guy that's 40 years old to play a lot of defensive snaps. But I do think Grant will be pretty effective. Want to see what the variation will be? The Dolphins, that is a play they've ran a lot. That exact play, I think HN scored on that exact play 6 times last year. Not even kidding. Because the Dolphins couldn't really do much else in the red zone. But I do think we'll be better this year. I think we'll be better from a run game perspective. And I think if it just gets better from a run game perspective, a lot of other stuff opens up. I also think you have, I think Waller, Nick Westbrook, Akine are really good red zone options to throw to. Having more big catch radius guys should make life a little easier for Tua. Because when you're known for being a pinpoint passer and you got to be a pinpoint passer all the time, it can be very helpful to have a guy that can make a play. That was the one thing Gesicki sort of brought to the team, because Gesicki was a horrible fit for the offense when McDaniel came in, but he at least was still able to make some red zone plays for Tua. But it's just it was hard to justify keeping that on a big contract. Okay. I'm trying to read stuff. Don't forget to share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Grant might get outplayed by Jordan Phillips. I mean, I'm a big Jordan Phillips fan, but I don't think that will happen. I think one area Grant's going to be better than most people think, pretty quickly. And I believe Teron Armstead even said this, and I believe this. I've been kind of saying this since he was drafted. He's going to be a better pass rusher than people think. I think some people kind of pencil him in as a nose tackle and think he's a little bit raw. And he is a little bit raw, but that guy is an athlete and has such a good feel and can beat people with quickness, and he can beat people with power. If you can win in a couple ways as a D tackle, which I think he already can, he still needs to, get better, show more consistency. But I think that, and he's got a very good feel for the stunt game up front, and him and Sealer are going to create some space for each other. I think Grant's going to be a better pass rusher right away than people think. And I'm sure he will only develop and get better as the year goes on. Who's your favorite UDFA out of the whole league? Oh God. UDFA this year, or just UDFA in general, guy who was undrafted? Because I don't know, honestly. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at the teams and remember all the guys that went undrafted. Who's my favorite UDFA? I don't know. I think all those registries are what make that shuttle pass to HN so effective. I don't know. I think it's just a situational thing, and calling those plays at the right time, depending on situations, can really change the effectiveness. And going who you're going against changes things as well. We didn't run many of those shovel passes last year to H-Chan. We ran a couple of them, but I don't know what you're saying. I would love to see us get a big bruising back that can pick up tough yards in red zone, tired of outside runs. I mean, I think that's kind of why they brought in guys like Madison and Gordon, is they are guys who are, bigger backs and have a short yardage ability. And I think even Jalen Wright is going to be just better in short yardage, just with better block. I think the short yardage stuff mostly starts up front. I think it's even less to do. I think, running backs play a part in that. But I think it has more to do with the O-line. I think the interior O-line being better will be a huge help. I think just having the tight ends and fullbacks playing at a higher level will be a huge help. It's not necessarily about, they shouldn't be running tosses on third and short, but it's fine to run outside zone, because outside zone can still be an inside run. If you make a bang read, there's different reads running backs have. There can be an outside zone run. If it's, the running back can still hit an A gap, a B gap on those runs. Just, make a quick cut, get downhill. That's fine. It's just, the blocking's got to be there for that. It just hasn't been. I think Grant learning from Steelers is great. Yeah. And that's a big part, is everything we've heard talked about Grant from the coaches and the players. I think it's important that we've heard it from both. Because sometimes, things it can be coach speak, or players can lie. But I think hearing it from both, and hearing it very convincingly, there's no doubt about it. It's Grant is clearly smart and a hard worker, which if you have that, and he clearly has the athletic and physical talent, I don't think anyone can deny that. Those guys typically work out when they have the work ethic and, put in behind it. And I think Chubb said Sealer, Kenneth Grant doesn't leave, Sealer's side and stuff like that. Putting in the work. The coaches talked about how smart he was. Even the defensive line coach. And I think Austin Clark usually is pretty honest with things. So you agree with Tyreek to take out Devon? I mean, yeah, I think in most situations. But I also don't think it's just one of those black and white things where Achane can't be on the field in a 3rd and 1, Because I do think you can become a little predictable at times. If you just bring in that's something the Dolphins have also struggled with, is being predictable on 3rd and short. Is when they bring in a certain player, it seems like the defense knew what was happening. So if you just bring in Madison and just run Madison downhill, it might work a lot, and that's fine. But once teams start to play for that, I think it's fine to change up your call a little bit. And having Achane in, giving you multiple calls. If Achane's in and hey, we have this called, but the defense is clearly not playing for an inside run, you can still give Achane an inside run in those situations. He's converted those. It's not his stuff rate was that much different from the other running backs who were bigger and stronger. Raheem's and his were pretty similar, and Raheem's, quite a bit bigger than he is. I think it just came more so from the O-line being successful. But yeah, I do agree, overall, yeah, you should probably, put in the bigger backs. But yeah, we'll see how it ends up playing out. Very excited for the preseason rolling around here soon. We'll get joint practices very, very soon, joint practices. And then the preseason, Dolphins play Sunday at 1 p.m. I'll probably go live during the preseason game. I obviously can't show it, because then you get I think the NFL would nuke my YouTube channel if I showed it. But I'll go live during the preseason game, and we can, I'll watch it and we can talk about all this stuff happening live. And then we'll get all the film breakdowns the next days. I'll probably have a film breakdown every day, pretty much throughout the preseason weeks. How's our offense going to be better? We downgraded talent at every position. How's our offense going to be better? We downgraded talent at every position. What positions on offense do you think they downgraded? Also, I think sometimes, because I don't really think offensively they downgraded. I think maybe you can argue tackle, but I think Patrick Paul just being in the unit without the injuries can be very valuable to the team. Armstead was obviously elite, but receiver I think is an upgrade. I think overall it didn't get worse. Receiver didn't get worse. Tight end didn't get worse. You probably stayed the same. I think running back you're going to be better this year. I think guard, you're way better. Center, you're the same. So I don't know. QB, your backups got better. I don't really think they downgraded offensively. And I think cohesion wise is like, I think if the Dolphins run the ball better, which I think they will run the ball better based on their starters, is the key for the Dolphins just being better in general. Tackle, tight end. See, I don't think they got worse at tight end. I mean, I guess you lose Jonnu Smith. Okay, I can understand tight end because I wasn't thinking Jonnu Smith, but Jonnu's not the tight end player. Like, to me, you replace Jonnu's a part of the receiver room, in my opinion. Like, he didn't really play tight end. I was thinking more Y tight end. Like, I guess F tight end, you can say you downgraded, but I don't think that's a super important part of what the Dolphins want to do offensively. I think Y tight end, you say the same. If anything, Pharaoh Brown would be a run block upgrade over Durham Smythe, which I think is more valuable. We lost Smith as our tight end. We lost OBJ. We lost Raheem. Raheem was terrible last year. OBJ was terrible last year. So Jonnu's really the only loss. Like, OBJ did nothing. Raheem was literally Raheem was one of the biggest negatives to the team last year. No offense to Raheem Mostert, but he lost 2 games single-handedly. And, you know, if he doesn't lose those games, we make the playoffs. And I think Jalen Wright, Madison, Gordon, and Achane, just all behind a better O-line. If the O-line is run blocking, which I do think will be better, the running backs will improve drastically. Like, that's the biggest thing for the running back room. Well, then wide receiver. Yeah, but I think Nick Westbrook-Akine and Darren Waller, who I see as a receiver as well, I think them kind of replaced Jonnu in my opinion, so I don't think it like got worse. Like, I think they can do all the things they'd asked Jonnu of, but also bring a different element. Like, they're not going to bring as much yak as Jonnu, but I think what people need to understand with the Jonnu situation, he played really well. I do not want to take that away from him. I really like Jonnu's fit in the offense, but he was a situational player that got more touches than he should have because the Dolphins could not run the ball. He got a lot of low value touches. Like, I believe like 20 of his touches were like behind the line of scrimmage, something like that. You can get those touches to a lot of other players on Miami that can still get yak. Like, even like a Malik Washington is a good yak player. I like Jonnu, but he could not block. He made your offense kind of predictable in certain situations. He's really the only, like, Jonnu and Armstead are like the only real arguable like negative losses on the team. But I think you gained at Jonah. I think you gained at James Daniels. I think Pharaoh Brown is like a slight upgrade over Durham Smythe. Not much to talk about. I think overall the wide receiver room is deeper. I think Tyreek and Waddle will be better this year than last year just based on how things went. I think Tyreek's fully healthy. Well, I mean, he's not healthy now because he might have that injury. But I think last year, like, you could clearly tell he was affected. But also, I just think they're going to be better because the Dolphins will be able to have more time in the pocket and push the ball down the field. I also think it's a cohesion thing. Sometimes it's not about talent. I think more so, like, where you have your big talent loss is your secondary. I think it's more of a defense secondary thing. Is where you point at talent loss, specifically corner. I do not want Darren Waller on the field. I mean, why do you not want him on the field? He's a situational player as well. He's a situational player just like Johnny was, but he's going to be a like more red zone, throw the ball down the field type of big body, which Johnny wasn't. Johnny was not a guy stretching the field. Like, most of his passes were caught within 10 yards. I'm concerned about the talent drop off on the O-line. I think the O-line's better. I think the O-line will be better this year. Like, you're saying depth, then yeah, that's fair. Depth is the biggest concern, in my opinion. I think the offense I think the starting offense will be better this year than the starting offense last year. I think depth-wise, if you lose some O-linemen, then it will be more like what you had last year. They having a walk through tomorrow, Omar Kelly said yesterday? Okay. So it's like nothing. Yeah, and you can scheme around. I think the corners will be schemed around a lot, but I'm sure they'll be exposed in certain games. But I think for the most part, it won't be as big of a deal as maybe people are concerned with, as like on like a game-to-game basis. Also look forward to see Taj Washington, Grace Murphy. Yes, I agree. Yeah, I'm disappointed Jalen Conyers is out as well. That sucks. Conyers was one of my favorite UDFAs that we picked up this year, and he's now not playing. You think defensive front seven will cover up our defensive back vulnerabilities? I think for the most part, yes. I mean, that's clearly the plan. And I think Weaver does. I think if you look at last year, the secondary wasn't actually asked to do that much. This is why I'm not as concerned. Because if you look at the secondary last year, yes, on paper, it was way more talented. But I think this year you have guys that are more bought in, willing to be more physical as tacklers, and guys that can maybe play with better communication. Last year, Holland and Poyer were one of the worst safety duos of the league. On paper, you might not have thought that, but like when they played, that's just how it ended up playing out. Ramsey was good, but he didn't play up to his elite level. Kohu had a pretty good season, but outside of Kohu and maybe Ramsey, the rest of your corner you just didn't play that well. And like just the way they were asked to play too, they weren't asked to do a ton. It was more so relying on like coverage rotation in the back end and then winning up front quickly. And I think you can win up front quicker this season than they did last season because you have guys like Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb back. Last year, your only like consistent pass rush edge guy was Chubb. After that, it was the only one who could really get something going was Sealer, but it's hard to do that consistently on the inside. Yeah. You think the couching is better? I'm guessing you mean coaching. I mean, I think from what we've heard, it seems like the coaching is better from like the receiver coach. Like, they've had a high praise for the new receiver coach, and he's like making them take notes. He's making the receiver room seem like they're more locked in, which will, I think, be a help. I think the Dolphins being able to run the ball better, like I think they will make McDaniel's play calling seem way better than it was last year. I think that will be like night and day difference. And it won't be necessarily just because like, oh, McDaniel improved as a play caller. I think just last year he was forced into certain spots because of things they couldn't do. I think Weaver is going to have, pretty high level coaching like he did last year. So yeah, I think the coaching will be better, but because they brought in players that I think are more bought in to the coaching. Secondary was nothing. It's not very good last year. Didn't really want to tackle, lots of missed tackles. They were more talented on paper, but I think this year, I think Minka's a huge help. I think a lot of the young guys are hungry. And you got some dogs back there. You got guys who will want to actually get involved. And at least that's, something. Jalen Phillips said Grayson. Yeah, I talked about that earlier. Shout out Grayson. I'm a fan of Grayson Murphy. Ravens last year at a 32 ranked pass defense still made the playoffs. Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me is like, even though I think you can argue that they didn't get more talented or they got less talented, I think there's that argument could be made. I think overall, like if you overall just take the whole team together, I think the talent level is relatively similar, but I think the difference is like cohesion, having the right guys in the right fits, and then the areas they did get better, which I think is interior O-line and just like overall defensive front because you got guys back healthy. I think those are the most valuable. Like I think just like O-line, D-line are like what sets, it sets the tone in these games, and like everything is built off of that. And I think they're better there. And I think those areas are which really killed them last year. They couldn't always, like the games the defense struggled, they couldn't just rely on Chop getting all the pressure, and like they weren't able to get as consistent pressure. I think they're going to get more consistent pressure this year. Even though they still got consistent pressure last year, I think it's going to be still just better this year. And I think they're just going to run block better. And then hopefully Tua stays healthy. That goes, I think, without saying. This team messed up by chasing stars rather than drafting and building. Now they're going in the right direction. Yeah, I agree. I think you can do some of that, like trading stuff they did, but I think they did too many of those moves and like took away, like doing like the Chubb and like Tyreek thing both. Like you can maybe get away with doing one of those moves, but like I think it hurt the team long term to make a lot of those plays. Kendall Sheffield is balling out in practice. Do you think he changed? I need to see it for myself because I saw he got a pick today, but I think before the last couple of days, I hadn't really seen much talk of him. I know he'd been running with the ones, but I hadn't seen much talk of him actually balling out. And I just need to see it for myself in live action because he hasn't really played much. He's played like 100 snaps in the last 2 seasons. So, and they weren't very good snaps. So I need to see it for myself in live action. He's just like one of the players that's got to happen. What do you think of the Higbee? Higbee, the Rams cut him? I don't know if the Rams will cut Higbee. I know they drafted Ferguson, and I don't know. I'd have to watch Higbee. I'd have to see how he was still playing because I think he returned from injury last year. It's not a bad fit. Rams' offense is similar enough. I guess the question is, did we improve in relation to the other teams in our division? I think the Patriots got a lot better, but they were one of the worst teams in the league, so they needed to get a lot better. But like, I've seen people think like, I've seen people project the Patriots to get like 10, 11 wins, and the Dolphins have like 5, 6. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, the only way that happens, in my opinion, is if Tua misses like majority of the season. That is not going to happen if the Dolphins keep quarterback is healthy. It's just not. The Jets, I think the Jets have a good team, but I think Justin Fields is not good. So I'm not really worried about the Jets. I think the Patriots will actually be quite a bit better this season, and I think Drake May is pretty good, and that plays a part in it. But either way, the Bills are still at the top. I don't know if they improved a ton, but I think they're still everyone's still playing to beat the Bills. Do you think there's a chance we keep 3 QBs? Yes. I would be surprised if we cut Ewers. I would be very surprised. Jets will be dead last. Yeah, if I had to guess right now, I would say Jets would be last. I don't have a lot of faith in Justin Fields. I think, he's obviously a good athlete, but I think the Patriots improved a lot, and I think Drake May is pretty good, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they're a year away from really like taking that step, but I think they'll be better this year. But yeah. Oh yeah, they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. I would be surprised if they didn't keep 3. I'd be very surprised. Because obviously Tua, they're not cutting Zach, and even if Ewers was playing kind of bad, I don't even think they would have cut Ewers. I think they were going into this season planning to keep 3 anyways. And Ewers is obviously playing pretty high above expectations. So I think the only way they don't keep 3 is if maybe one of them got hurt in like preseason or something, and then they just roll with 2. Because they're not gonna cut Zach because of the money, and he's the guy I think they're trying to really make the quarterback too, and they're not gonna try to cut Ewers because he would get claimed elsewhere. Hi, Brennan. No, I don't think the Patriots will have a Commanders type year, but I do think they will. They'll definitely be much better than they were last year because they were awful last year. Because the Dolphins weren't good. The Dolphins were not good, and they still beat the Patriots. They beat the Patriots without Tua, man. I mean, we beat the Patriots without Tua, and it's like, you beat the Patriots. Like, if you're a team losing to the Dolphins without Tua, like, you have to be real bad because the Dolphins cannot put up any points without Tua in the game. And then when Tua played, they blew him out. It wasn't even close. And the Dolphins were still not a very good team at that point. What's the Patriots O-line situation looking like? I know they drafted Campbell. Their O-line was so bad last year. That was like one of their biggest downfall. Chop made that right tackle look like he was like a D3 college player. Let's see. They got Campbell at left tackle, good. Jared Wilson is their left guard, apparently. He's a rookie. That's interesting. He played center in college. They got Bradbury at center. That's fine. Oh, they have Morgan Moses at right tackle. Interesting. Okay, he's definitely an upgrade, but Chop beat Morgan Moses because Morgan Moses was the Jets' right tackle last year, and Chop beat him as well. So, interesting. Yeah, there we go. Okay. But yeah, any final questions? Because it's probably all for today. Yeah, I think the Patriots would be like a mid-pack team. Colts and Titans beat us without Tua last year, yeah. And they're not good teams either. Campbell Campbell, and center Wilson. Well, they have Wilson listed as left guard because they have Garrett Bradbury at center. And then they have a Kwanwu at right guard. I don't know how he's been playing. Who's our top CB standing on practice? Duck. Duck. What's your benchmark in terms of total rushing yards and average yards per carry to be considered close to 2023 numbers? Yeah, it doesn't have to be 2023 numbers because 2023 they were like number one in most categories. I would just say like I don't have like a specific number in mind, but I think if they're like top 10-ish range, that's going to be more than fine. What do you mean final? I just got here. Did I say final? What do you mean final? Final, I just got here. Oh, final questions. Yeah, my bad, Reaper. I was like, what should I say something? But yeah, sorry, dude. You can always, once the stream ends, it turns into a video. You can go back and check it out. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you.